Another week and another crazy week in Florida and national politics. And we look forward to giving you guys a great show. This is going to be an interesting dynamic today. I feel like we have a lot of topics to talk about. You know, a lot of political, a lot of intermingling of constitutional rights and state legislatures and people getting kicked out. So hope you guys have some popcorn ready. We're gonna make it a great show. Um, but I want to start off like how's your week been, Seth?
I've had a really good week actually.
Yeah,
Making the money, pretty much working incessantly.
yeah,
I don't know. Been taking care of. Oh, I got my taxes finished,
that's
which
important.
they got rejected the first time because of my ACA explanation. And
Yeah,
then the website wouldn't show me how to do it, and they kept mailing it to my old address in Florida, even though I kept calling them and telling them my new address. And I called them, I
yeah,
think yesterday, and they're like, "Oh, looks like yeah, we got a record of you calling. I got your case is almost finished. Should be ready. Looks like your paperwork should be in the mail by May 17th." I'm like, I don't think that's gonna work for my tax deadline. How did they
I
not
know.
understand that? But
What's the tax deadline this year?
I think it's they kept saying like April 17, which I don't know why we changed it from April 15, but I guess I'm fine with it.
Yeah, so used to the 15. I think because the 15 lands on a weekend.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it's 15's on Saturday, so they have to do it for Monday.
My brother's birthday is April 15, so it was easy to remember. Usually,
Yeah, actually, I should get mine out this Friday,
what was that?
but I should get my taxes out this Friday.
Yeah, yeah, probably.
But
Yours aren't finished yet.
probably no.
That
I
makes me
wait.
feel good
I
though.
I end up always owing money, so
Ah,
it's
you're like I don't want to do
fluctuating.
that. I,
Yeah,
I'm I, I'm only getting paid okay. Technically, my return is like $400 this year, but for
yeah,
some reason, TurboTax made me pay, which they never have before, and
yeah,
I'm like, why? But whatever, I paid $200, so that was freaking lame.
yeah. Well,
Whatever,
guys, we had some interesting news. I know talking about taxes is never interesting, but
never. I actually disagree.
no,
I like taxes, just if they're done correctly.
like taxes, like doing taxes, or you like people
Nah,
being the rich
nah.
being.
I like the idea of
No,
taxes.
yeah, no one likes doing taxes. It's
Nah.
annoying. But
I'm sure,
guys,
I'm sure
we
people
want to
that
talk.
tax agents like doing taxes, or like people that's their job. Maybe not. Nobody likes their job. Never mind.
We're anti-jobs here.
Yeah.
No, that was a joke. Yeah, so guys, we had some crazy political week. Well, let's start off with the Tennessee three state legislatures that were banned, and how that was crazy. How they were banned for speak using their First Amendment right of freedom of speech.
Yeah, literally just doing
Yeah,
their job, talking on the floor,
right?
which is like
Didn't they get elected
they're
just to
like
talk?
it was too loud.
Yeah, and I was like, and what's funny is, and I try to put a legal perspective to everything, so you guys understand. Technically, they have sovereign immunity as a state legislature if they're acting in their capacity as one. In this case, they were. Sovereign immunity, it's more that someone in the middle of giving a speech and they won't be prosecuted because they have sovereign immunity.
Hmm.
So it's interesting. Now it's a little complicated because it depends on who's enforcing their law, federal, state. But for the most part, that's how it works. It's interesting that how this happens and they're not even threatening no one's lives. They're just saying like, hey, gun violence is
They're doing the
it's
opposite, really.
yeah, right. And Tennessee decided, oh, we're gonna just go ahead and ban these people from the state legislature. And I'm like, technically, if they really wanted to, those three state I think they're state house reps. Those three state house reps can literally sue Tennessee.
Well, did you know the second part of the drama was three of them didn't get banned. Two of them got banned, and the one that
Yes,
didn't was the white woman.
it was a white woman.
Yeah,
And that was insane in itself because it was like when you looked at it, it was definitely some old. Oh, I can't say old boys network because she didn't get banned, but it was definitely some.
yeah, just
I
white.
know. Yeah, this is definitely excuse me, a system in place where they kind of just alienate the two black legislators, which was funny because it's funny their city council actually put both of them back in position of power.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they really shot themselves in the foot on this one because had anybody heard of
Yeah,
those two guys before this? No, but
no,
we won't ever stop hearing from them now. They're
yeah,
gonna they made them more powerful than ever.
yeah. They actually went on the Breakfast Club, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Oh wow, I
And
didn't see that.
just so you guys don't know who the Breakfast Club is, it's like they're like the go-to, like in my opinion, when I see like if you understand black culture and like what's going on in the black community, like the Breakfast Club is like literally one of the premier radio stations that talk about black culture. So I thought it was interesting because I didn't even know who they were, and then they were on the Breakfast Club, and I was listening, and I was just like, "Oh, you're the guys that you know."
Yeah,
So I put two together. So it definitely became more popular after it. So I thought that was cool, and I thought and I thought it was awesome that their city council immediately stepped up and was like, "Look, these are representatives, and this political game you're playing is just a game," and they got them back elected. So I thought that was awesome.
yeah. I mean, if you're gonna ban Democrats like that just because you have a majority, they might as well ban the entire party. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's
Republicans
good.
are that crazy at this point.
Well,
I'm
they have no.
surprised they haven't passed it. I'm surprised they haven't passed anything trying to impeach Biden yet. I would have just assumed, just reactionary wise, they would have been like, "All right, we have a majority in the House. Let's go. Let's impeach this guy
Well, that's
because he's old."
well, I can tell you one thing though. That is notorious what the Republicans are doing right now. They have literally no policies. So it's like, oh, let's keep going down this social media path and
Yeah,
this social woke path that we're trying to correct.
ban Bud Light.
Banned by like, which I was going to jump into the French protest because I know you were going to love to talk about that because it's so awesome and it's so up your lane.
You said the
But
French?
yeah, the French
I
protesters.
haven't even been following it, but I've seen pictures, so I'd love to
Yeah,
talk about it.
the French. They have a rebellious state in them.
Yeah,
But
they do a
no,
lot better than us.
yeah, but I have to. I would be amiss if I didn't talk about. I'm just gonna get this guy's name. I don't butcher it, but it's like Bernene, something like that. Where's the house? I think it's Representative Bernia. I'm totally mispronouncing his name, but I'll get it back up and I'll give you his name later. But if you haven't followed the news, okay, I found it. Barnaby. It's a terrible. His name is Representative Barnaby, and if you haven't been following Florida politics, he essentially went on a rant and went after trans right people. And I'm not going to repeat what he said because it's derogatory. You can look it up yourselves. But he said things that essentially, when I was talking to you guys earlier about how people have sovereign immunity, they can talk whatever they want as a state legislature. He was doing that, and he was using that opportunity to bash trans rights. And I don't know if you follow. Have you seen the news stuff?
In Florida?
Yeah,
Well, the only thing I've heard from Florida is the 6 week ban. That's all. Or yeah,
yeah, that just passed. But look, the 6 week ban. That's not. They're doing that more symbolically because I mean I don't even think there's going to pass to the Florida Supreme Court because I don't
oh, the
think.
Supreme Court. Okay, yeah. I was
Yeah,
gonna say like it did pass though, didn't it? But
it passed, but it's not going to be constitutional
well,
because we
isn't
have
the
to.
Supreme Court conservative? Do you think some of them are going to dissent?
It's not a matter of dissent. We have these. Florida has these unique Bill of Rights, and essentially what we have in there is the right to privacy. It's just unique to Florida, and so a lot of people don't think that the abortion bans that were put in place are going to pass the Florida's Constitution, the
Hmm.
right to privacy.
Okay.
So it's just more symbolic at this point because the the I gotta find a better name for him. The Governor DeSantis is running for president.
Yeah,
Well,
I don't know yet.
he
Still,
thought he was running for president. Trump is like gaining more popularity
yeah,
as we speak. So
but
probably
I
that
think Tim Scott's running for president now,
he is running for president. I
or he's
heard.
in the exploratory committee at least.
I
You
don't
got
know if Trump can win the presidency. I mean, I just don't think he has a national
not
profile.
against Trump. No,
No,
definitely not.
no, I just don't think he has a national profile. I mean,
I think maybe this will help him get a national profile, and maybe they'll use him for like the new right wing identity politics, where they're like, we can't be racist if we have minorities that
that's true.
represent us. They love doing that with
Check the
everything.
box.
Like Blair
But
White, we can't be transphobic. She's even if she's saying transphobic thing, if she's trans, it's like
no,
Clarence Thomas can't be a Nazi with Nazi like all this artifacts in his. You hear about that shit? Clarence
no,
Thomas, his corruption scandal.
come on. Everybody know Clarence Thomas has been. Well, excuse me, I got to watch myself. Justice, Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, because I'm barred. I'm a Florida lawyer, so I can't.
You're not allowed to say not justice.
No, I just can't disrespect him. He's kind of my boss technically.
Nah. Yeah, but you're supposed to stand up against your bosses, bro. The only
you know,
authority that they have is the authority that you give them over you.
yeah, it's true. But then, let's say, what if I get a Supreme Court case and I
I
go in
love
front
that
of,
would be amazing.
it'd be awesome. But
Yeah,
if I'm standing in front of the Florida Supreme Court and then I'm like, this string comes up, he's like, oh, so Mr. Thomas, huh? And
yeah.
that's great.
Mr. Thomas,
No, Justice.
he's corrupt. He doesn't deserve the honor.
Oh, well, I didn't say that. I would say that the Supreme Court is not a political body,
He's
and
political, that's for damn sure. He don't
and
care about that.
and exactly. So if you're going to be hanging out with political people, it undermines the court and it undermines the legal system,
Yeah.
and that's what I would say about that. But just, the
I'm more
lawyer
willing to
answer.
call him out than you. It's okay. You don't have to do it. I'll do it. You froze. Where'd Jesse go? Oh, your internet's 0 out of 10 connection. Oh, he's back. You're gone for like 20 seconds.
Has your internet been acting up lately? Because I feel like when it's funny.
Oh boy. It's back to 0 out of 10. I don't really know what to do to occupy these times. Let's see. Oh, oh, you're gone for quite a while.
Again.
He's like, my internet's acting up. It's better. I can at least hear your voice.
Yes, we should technical cheese.
Now he's walking on a treadmill with the background not moving because he's walking clearly. We're getting
Is it better?
somewhere. It's better. I can hear it. It's not
Can you
going in
see
and out.
me?
It's just blurry. It's a
Can you
little
see me
blurry, but
moving?
I can hear you. Yeah, I see you moving. We're back to good. It just looks like a TV in the 70s or something. But we can hear you. Disney what show?
On
I'm
Disney.
not I'm not very old. Oh, the Wanda show. Oh yeah. Yeah, I remember that. That was
You just
pretty
call
good.
me old because I know the one.
No, I just assumed you were saying something actually from the 70s or something. You're like, "Oh, that one show. The Wanda show."
Oh my god. It's so weird. Sometimes I think to myself like I am not that old, but then I remember I used to watch the first episodes of Family Matters, and now people are talking about it like it's a rerun, and I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'm
I
technically
barely
80.
I barely know what that is other than like a recognition of the title of the show. I can't even picture anything about it.
Oh man, I was a big TGIF kid. And if you ever talk to someone from the 80s, they'll tell you what TGIF is.
Thank
And
God it's
it
Friday.
was, yes, but it was Friday night ABC, you watch Sabrina the Teenage Witch, Family Matters, Boy Meets World, and every nostalgic Disney Channel show you ever could think of.
I was watching what is it called? Full House. That was my era.
I was in
I'd be up at like 3 a.m. watching Full House when I'm like 7.
I love Full House. I just didn't like the fact that Jesse is my name, so people would like associate with that.
But
But
why? He was the cool one, wasn't he?
it was the cool
Why
uncle.
would you not want to be associated with John Stamos?
Johnson was just cool. It's good.
Yeah,
It's just,
he's like the hottest man alive.
but he has a different vibe to me. Like we have completely different
I
vibes.
don't even know. I don't know that I agree with that. I mean, you're both chill, but he's more of a bad boy. I guess I see that.
Yeah, you know.
You're a
So yeah,
little bit of a bad boy, but you also like the law and we're a marine and stuff. So
yeah. I
yeah,
don't know if you can associate Marines with being good,
no, I agree with that. But
but
they
yeah,
think they're good at least.
yes,
Yeah,
Marines are
I'm
interesting.
unashamedly like being the bad guy, even though I like good things.
I
I
was
just like the
re-
aesthetics of it.
I was reading this book. So I've been traveling a lot lately, and so I was in the airport and I was reading this book about id versus ego, the
Mm,
Sigmund Freud theory.
yeah,
It's like you can never be your full self unless you truly understand what makes you evil, kind of a sense. It's
oh
weird,
yeah, you
and
embracing your dark side or whatever, or coming to terms
yeah.
with it.
So I think to myself a lot of times what I was thinking, like in the airport, and this is going to tie back to all our randomness. Is going to tie back, guys.
Randomness is great.
Yeah, I was thinking, do you think that what we're feeling in America and what is this battle between these egos?
Yeah,
Because according to this book, with Sigmund Freud, really,
yeah.
it deals with our darker desires
I
and
think
our
that it is like the human quality to us, like just the
yeah,
animalistic part where it's like our sexual desires and like uh I don't know, just like masculinity stuff like that. But
yeah, the thing that's innate within
yeah,
us. And when I look at the last two presidents, and I'm thinking to myself, like, are we going through this as a country, uh, a personality disorder? Because if you look, when you have President Barack Obama, you think of yourself as just super ego. This is like morally
yeah,
what we're trying to be, you know? And then we
definitely.
go from that to Trump, and we're like, that doesn't make any sense, but it does because technically that's our id. That's our
I think
I'm
Trump is
a man.
ego
Well, no, I because the way I understand it is that Trump, that the dark desires, everything that some people were thinking that couldn't say, end up being Trump.
I think Trump represents the id in this in the way that he militarizes fear, but I
Yes,
think he is obviously an egomaniac. He's there's like not a person on the planet that better represents ego because he's only care about his self interest, and that's the issue. So he's using the id for his own ego,
but
and he's
isn't that what it's about? Like you being selfish and not thinking about the greater good of a
the id
person.
kind of can't do anything on its own. The ego is the thing that has all the power. The
Well,
ego is in between the super ego and the id. It's kind of takes the good aspects and the bad aspects and makes a personality that your ego is most translated to just your personality. And he's just
exactly.
like, I mean, some people can have healthy egos, but not him.
But when you think about it, isn't your ego making a choice between to listen to your super ego and your ed?
Sometimes, I think,
So,
but
so when,
egocentric is specifically like what's good for you. You know what I mean?
yeah, which is more of a, I think when I think of that, I think of it as more of a dark way of looking at ego. And
Because
you're not thinking
super
about,
ego is what's good for others. Ego is what's good for you, and it's like your genetics, something that's not even like you, like something you're serving
yeah,
as your id. You know what I mean? Like that's like your DNA, stuff like that.
yeah. So I think as a country, I think we're moving more and more towards this kind of self-centered thinking, right?
Yeah.
This ego that you're talking about, this egocentric thinking, and the I guess the demigod that we're making Trump is this the idealism of just being man. I can say what that guy said, or I can do whatever I want to do without actually thinking about the society as a whole,
Mm-hmm.
thinking about how our words and our actions have an impact on others. We're thinking about, oh, we want to be the guy that said whatever we feel.
Yeah,
There's
he
a
really
reason why
brings it out of them. He makes them feel oof, like yeah, like they're more free to be themselves and not in a good way. It's like, oh,
yeah.
I don't have to regulate myself at all. I don't have to have any sort of super ego, care for other people. Like, I mean, maybe they care about like white people or something, but like,
But no, it's not really, because when you think about it, I I find most Trump voters, like, they're more into idealisms of what white society was in
yeah,
the 1950s, and it's
just
not
romanticizing their own childhood. That's all it is.
exactly. So I don't feel like a lot of them is more so. A lot of the voters are more so, oh, white pride or stuff like that. I think the
Yeah.
voters are more like, I want it to go back to where I felt like I was successful,
Hmm.
and that position, that mindset is, I think, kind of the reason why you have a lot of Trump voters who voted for Barack Obama was a lot of Midwesterners, and that's really where
I
the
think they're
swing
more
vote happened.
independents that voted for Obama than Republicans, but
Well, a
he
lot of
just sort
independents
of
voted for
really
Trump.
won the independents.
Yeah,
I
most
think,
people.
yeah, sure. There's a couple. There's some
Yeah,
Obama,
there's Trump independents
but
because
that's
I
like
think,
8 years. Also, that's a lot of time to change.
well, it's a lot of time change when they didn't realize that nothing was changing about their lives. Because I
Yeah,
think, and this is going back to what we mostly talk about every week, is the economic issues. Like, no, the Democratic Party, which we call liberal, it's so called liberal, that's currently in power, don't really talk about economic prosperity, nor does a lot of the Republicans, because they're really, their main focus is to keep what's the wealth, the wealth.
I feel like that's been the Republican strategy, and to an
Yeah,
extent, now they're militarizing right wing populism and like progressive rhetoric to advocate for conservative policies, but mostly just to militarize the working class against liberalism. You know what I mean?
I
So they'll
think
be
they.
like, their corrupt system, it doesn't work for the working class and stuff like that. And it's all because of the trade deals and they just are calling for like mercantilism. But
No,
like,
I agree, because they channel that anger of that what I think is that, and that inside pride inside of them, which where I was talking about the id, that
mhm.
dark desire to have a world where it was, that no longer exists. And it doesn't matter if I'm black, white, Hispanic, or Latino, that world just doesn't exist anymore.
I think some of the Trump supporters are like that, but I don't think that that necessarily represents like
Well,
all of
I see.
the Christian right. You know what I mean? Because they're super anti like sex, and they're about like controlling and eliminating all sexuality from society, and that's not very id like. That's their idea of a super ego. That's their ego. You know, trying to find the middle ground between like using these conservative impulses towards something they think is good, which is actually very much against their natural impulses. It's like that's what makes it the ego. It's all just this mush of just bullshit that they have created. So
Well, I think that. Well, I mean, let's think about it. Your world is always designed of how you create it, and if someone's priming you like Trump does to believe that world was so much better in 1950, and that's the priming he's always doing,
yeah,
well, guess what? You're gonna associate in your own world that was a great time in America, and you're gonna forget.
the thing is that there was a lot of good economic prosperity in the 1950s because they were so much more progressive. So that's why they like, but they also
Yeah,
associate that with being white. You know, it's just like the white nation that they picture in all the black and white movies, but like, oh, JFK, but like, you know what I mean? I know a lot of Republicans that like JFK, but he's just like, you know what I mean? Fascists don't really care as much about that stuff. There's it's an aesthetic political position. You know what I
well,
mean?
I think you're
It's
100.
nationalism. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say you're 100% right. I was just gonna agree with you in terms of what you were saying, that how the 1950s and how it a lot of the policies that people liked in the 1950s are based on progressive policies and FDR.
And even Eisenhower was more progressive
Yeah,
in some ways. Some ways he was dog shit, but
yeah,
that's inevitable. He had
but yeah,
Nixon was his VP. Like, come on.
yeah, good old Nixon.
Yeah, which he
But no,
also had he had his moments too. Pretty sure he was at an advocate for like a negative income tax, which is like a UBI. He also he did a lot of stuff actually, but he also did he established like the EPA. He did a
yeah,
lot of also
well,
crazy fascist stuff. So
yeah, but I think we've always been a progressive nation. Honestly, I think what's
yeah,
happened with
to an
this
extent.
nowadays, what's happening is the 1980s came. Ronald Reagan came in with this whole laissez-faire um, thinking, and that's really what the Republican Party changed
Yeah.
was doing that laissez-faire thinking. And when you looked, and then you had George Bush, and then Bill Clinton trying to get elected, he knew he couldn't push really progressive things. And Barack Obama was the first president in the Democratic Party who's actually really pushed the progressive message, which
I don't know about that. I don't think he really pushed a progressive message at all.
well, Medicare for all. I mean, that's what I mean.
Obama?
Yeah,
He did not
the,
push for Medicare for all.
that's
He's
where
he's
when you look
very
at
ardently against Medicare for all. He wanted a
no,
public option attached to Obamacare. That was the most progressive that he had, which is fine.
but that's what I'm saying. That's the precursor
That's
to
not
Medicare for
Medicare for
all.
all.
He was never going to pass. Okay, so we
He
have to look at
literally created Obamacare, which is like a subsidy
because
for private healthcare. So
because
it's not. Yeah, go ahead.
what I was going to say is there was no way he was going to pass Medicare for all.
True.
But he had to do the precursor to Medicare for all because a lot of times, and this is a great point. A lot of times in government, it's always a lot of politicians going around making a lot of statements saying that oh we're going to get this thing passed, but the reality is there is another party, and that's never going to be the case. So when I hear people, and progressives do this a lot, but it's like, well, Obama doesn't really believe in universal health care because he passed that Obamacare. It's like, well, he had to pass it that way because it was never, or we're going to have
Yeah,
zero health
he
care.
was pushing for a public option. People don't talk about that, but he lost by one vote because of Joe Lieberman.
Yeah,
One vote kept us from having a public option, which
yeah,
is, I mean, it's kind of crazy if you think of how close we were.
we were,
And we're
and
still, you don't hear anything from Biden about healthcare, which is irritating for me.
I think he just can't touch it right now because it's still a hot topic. I say the next 20 years we will have a public option and we will have universal medical health care. I
Oh,
promise you,
definitely. I think so, yeah.
in the next
Because
20 years.
even conservatives can see the benefit of having a public option. I bet you
Yeah,
at least 40% of conservatives would support a public option, like legitimately, especially if you associate it with like Medicaid or something,
of course. And I think that
established programs. Sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just saying, of course. I think that we're on the right path. I mean, um, I think what we really need to focus on is universal basic income. We got to figure a way to get that passed because, man, I've been reading about this Chat GTP. Have you heard about it?
We've mentioned it once on the stream. I don't, not as much as you, I'm sure.
Well, I've been using it. This
Oh,
thing,
really?
this Chat GTP passed the Florida bar. Well, not the Florida bar, but just bar in general.
Wow, that's something. Yeah,
It's
artificial intelligence is gonna
it's coming.
completely change our lives for sure.
It's here. Man, this thing passed the medical board exam. Or no. What did doctors do? I don't know if they teach doctors like that. But MCAT. It passed the MCAT.
Uh,
So to get into medical school. And then they're talking about, and this is just Chat GTP 4. When Chat GTP 5, they're talking about this thing can kind of start to learn from itself. And and I'm so scared because when you look at it, our politicians are so retarded and they're so slow. And they're not
yeah,
going to figure this out. I mean, come on, let's be honest. We were just asking Facebook how they make money in a in a congressional hearing, and like
yeah,
everyone knows under the sun that Facebook makes money through advertising.
yeah.
And so I'm concerned because this Chat GPT in just 2 years has become super smart. And I was reading some of the possibilities that this thing can replace a lot of workers. from
Yeah,
McDonald's, from like
and that's not going
all
to
your
work very well with capitalism.
is not, and it's gonna decimate the middle class.
Yeah.
It's, and that's scary. And I feel like with Republicans and conservatives coming into place and being pro business, they're going to push it and push it and push it, and our middle class is going to get decimated, and the dollar is already devaluing, and it's just going to make things worse. And I look at it, man, and I don't know what you think about it, but it's always been here, in
Yeah.
terms of you know technology taking over, but it is moving at such a fast pace that I think within the next 5-10 years, like it's going to replace a lot of jobs.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we're seeing this happen with like McDonald's and stuff like that. Like they're just cutting. I think this is a good thing to an extent. I think we can cut a lot of unnecessary jobs out of the workforce as long as we replace the income or distribution in a better way. Like I think UBI is an interesting idea for sure, especially if it's like through a social wealth fund or something like that, where they're also. I think we've talked about this where it's just like an asset pool where they buy private stocks and stuff like that and distribute the dividends amongst like the U.S. public. So it's like
Hmm.
we have more public ownership but it's literally like it's not like state ownership as it kind of is, but
Yeah.
the dividends are distributed amongst the people. It's through like a UBI, and they have this in Norway. They have this. That's actually how the Alaska UBI is funded. Is through a social wealth fund.
Well, explain that a little bit for everybody.
I mean, I need to look into it a lot more clearly than that, but that was
Yeah.
pretty much my best explanation at this point.
Well,
It's
yeah,
it's something I'm like 13 minutes into like a 40-minute video that I need to
to
finish.
finish it up and get
No,
back
but
to us.
it's like a Matt Brunig. I think a lot of people know him. It's
Yeah.
something that he's popularizing. I think there's a website you can look up, but they exist in like a lot of there's social wealth funds in America. It's just not enough
Yeah.
assets. You know what I mean? We need to invest in that a lot more. Like I
Yeah.
said, it's literally if we talked about how Alaska has the UBI, it would be
They
probably
do have, they
normalize
do
it a
have
lot,
UBI, don't
right?
they?
What was
Yeah,
that?
they do
Yeah.
have UBI. They don't call it UBI, but they get subsidies for living there.
Yeah, I think it's because of like oil reserves stuff like that. Maybe.
Yeah, they definitely get subsidies for living there, but they
Yeah,
don't call it UBI. I mean, I just think that
it is
UBI,
though
it's time for us
basically.
to have this conversation because honestly, I mean, when you look at the jobs being decimated in America, what jobs are going to be around? I mean, outside of the professional jobs like
I think
lawyers,
it's going to be a
doctors,
lot of art, like including
yeah,
YouTube and like just
creativity,
entertainment stuff like that. I think that's
yeah,
how we're going to exist at some point.
yeah, and that's going to be tough because then you decimate the middle class. How are you going to supplement their incomes? You know, I was looking at this new thing. I don't know if you guys have you used Cash App. Well, I know you use
Oh
Cash
yeah,
App.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
So do you know the guy that founded it? It died, right?
Huh?
Yeah, it was crazy. He's got like mugged or something and died.
Really?
Yeah, but that was I was looking into his being weird, look into what happened, and at points I saw this thing where it was a conspiracy theorist. I don't really believe it, but they were just saying that the government, kind of took him out because of yeah, I told you I don't believe it,
Yeah.
and because the
Sounds
government,
like the Hillary Clinton conspiracy theories too.
yeah, it's just a whole bunch.
Although the government probably took out JFK, so
Yeah, I don't want to go there.
you don't you
I
think it
want to
was
wake
the
up tomorrow.
communists?
I just want to wake up tomorrow and go to
Oh yeah,
work.
yeah. I'm not going to threaten your
Yeah,
livelihood.
I don't want people to start looking over my mirror and just
Jesse has zero controversial opinions. Everybody.
yes, I'm playing it safe tonight. I don't know why. It's weird. But no, so I was researching this kooky conspiracy theory, but it was funny because I was looking at this new thing that the federal government's coming out with in the summer. It's called Fed Now, and you got to research it. It is crazy, man. So it's literally like replacing Cash App. So this idea is like the
Like a
government,
government one?
yeah, like they want to get rid of the dollar, like a physical dollar, and
Yeah,
then
that's
you
fine.
carry this thing around,
Who
this
needs
app
physical
around
dollars?
that keeps your money. That is scary when you think about it. Think about the fact that you would now have the federal government who has access to your money through an app.
Do you think they're just gonna take money out or something?
I think they will slowly phase out money, like the actual physical hard cash.
I think that's fine.
I don't know. I don't
I
think
don't
that's
see
fine.
I don't see the utility. Money doesn't exist anyways. It's just whatever value we agree on. Any commodity worth trading back and forth, and it's not worth trading a ham for a sledgehammer for like a pig. Oh, they're all the same category. I don't know why I did it like that. I'm just saying, like, you can't fucking barter for stuff nowadays, so we have to give arbitrary value to things.
Yeah,
And
we have
like
to have
paper
real,
is not any more valuable than a digital number on an app, but
but the beliefs are valuable, and
the
a many people
beliefs.
that believes in your currency gives it value, and
Yeah.
that's the way it works. And when you look at China, I don't know if you looked at this lately, but China and Brazil and I think like four of the countries got together, and they're talking about creating their own currency,
Hmm.
and that's going to go against the dollar. So when that happens, you have over 3 billion people who believes in this new currency versus us who we only have belief of like our currency, which
I
is
don't
only
think
2 million.
they're not interchangeable. I mean, there's already Chinese currency, there's already Brazilian currency, and we just sort of trade the value back and forth
Well,
based on. Go ahead.
every currency goes back to American dollars. That's the thing. Like they trade it, but the foundational money that everyone you end up converting their money to is the American dollar. But if other countries decide to create their own currency, and there's a billion people believing in that currency, well, guess what? To the American dollar, we devalue it, and it loses its ground. And I just think we're in this weird space, and I think like it's the news are very quiet about it because I think things are happening so fast that like the news can't keep up with it, and
Yeah, they just want to talk about Trump.
they just want to talk about Trump. But literally, there's a lot of crazy news happening in the technology front, where
Yeah.
like we have to really be vigilant because they're talking about launching Fed now in the summer, removing, trying to get rid of the dollar in terms of like the physical dollar, and there's have this Chat GPT thing that's growing smarter and smarter by the second, and it's literally talking about replacing a lot of jobs. And I think that for us progressives, we gotta like, hey, we gotta get serious about getting UBI because UBI is going to essentially allow people to have this windfall for what's coming. And I feel like it's this big melting pot of technology happening at one time, and that it's gonna sneak up on people, just like interest rates are right now. And so I think as progressives, we have to really fight for that. Just like, hey, we need a permanent UBI in place to deal with the windfall because there are going to be mass layoffs. And if there are going to be mass layoffs, we have to retrain, we have to re-educate, we have to
Yeah, I
re
think we also need like public education. I mean,
yeah.
it's not that expensive. It really is not. It's like maybe max 10% of the military budget is right now. Probably
Hmm.
less than that for sure. Like it just depends on how much coverage you want to do. But like maximum $80 billion a year, like that does not. How much do we spend on the Pentagon? How much do we increase every single year? Like it's ridiculous. Like if we just wanted to educate our people and give them guaranteed education, like first of all, the debt crisis would not be a giant issue. People would have more flexibility in buying a house or something out of college. You know what I mean? You don't have to start off your the beginning of your life in debt. Like how does that help people get ahead? How does it help people compete equally? How does it help people start businesses and innovate? And how does it help people get educated in the qualifications they need to follow their own career path? Things that they are like qualified for. Like right now, we're worried about like, oh, is it worth me spending all this money to pursue my passion? I need to just get some job in accounting or something that's
Yeah.
just pays well. You know what I mean? We have so many people who are like alienated from like their passion. You know what I mean? I don't know. They're stuck in these pointless jobs just because everybody's stuck in debt and just trying to pay it off. I think people could be freer. People could do whatever they want, pursue whatever they want to pursue because people are gonna be best at whatever they want to do. Nobody's
Yeah,
gonna try hard at some bullshit. You know what I mean?
yeah. No, I agree with you, and I just I'm taking the time to pull up the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The reason why I pull this up, I want to go over the top 10 jobs in the next 10 years. One is a nurse practitioner.
Okay.
You don't need a college degree for that.
You don't need a college degree?
You do not.
Huh.
You just need certifications.
Okay. Interesting.
Wind turbine service technician. I'm pretty sure you don't need a college degree for that.
No, you definitely got to go to like some technical school or something though.
A technical school, but not a college degree, not
Yeah.
a 4 year degree, but a technical school. Just
Which
like
we
a
should
nurse.
also offer. We should make that easier.
That should
I mean,
all
I don't know how much it costs, but probably would be in our benefit.
like all technical schools should be in high school. I mean,
Like this. Oh yeah. I mean, you can pursue it outside of that, but they should offer all the sort of stuff. Like we need to diversify education all across the board. It's
yeah,
very narrowly focused on like the liberal arts and stuff, which has its benefits because obviously people don't understand like civics or like how government works.
but
But
that's more so. I'm just probably the first and last time you're ever gonna hear me say this, but this is one thing that I did agree with Trump on by taking the labor department and putting it with the Department of Education. That was pretty smart,
hmm,
and that's the one thing I would give him credit on. And but providing trade technical trade level education in high school should be we should have done that 20, 30 years ago. And a lot of these trades can be taught in high school. Nurse practitioner, wind turbine, usher, lobby attendants, and ticket takers, motion picture projectionist, a restaurant cook, a data scientist.
these are the top jobs. A movie
Yes,
projectionist.
yes, in the next 20
What?
years.
Oh, in the next 20 years. Oh, I see. I see.
Well, it's because they have to
I
do
thought
it.
you were talking about right now.
Well, yeah, well, right now, and it's projected for the next 20 years. These are going to be the top jobs.
Huh.
So it starts from now. Choreographer, taxi driver, animal caretaker, a physicist, a solar photovoltaic installer. Yeah, you might need a degree for that. I don't know what that is.
I don't know.
Animal trainer and physical therapist assistant.
Hmm.
All those jobs do not require no 4 year degree.
Physical trainer definitely does. Oh, I'm thinking of physical therapist. Never mind.
A physical
Yeah,
trainer.
my bad. My bad.
But when you look at it, when you see that if those are the jobs of the future, then what are we doing? Like, why is student loan debt getting out of control? Why are we not retooling what education means in America? Because the reality is, we have to face the fact that the way our education system was set up was if you didn't go to college, you couldn't get a good job. And so you made people incur a whole bunch of debt so that they can get a good job, which now they're paying back from debt. So now they're at the same spot before they even went to college. And that's we're defeating the purpose.
I think one of the positive things about like a universal education thing is it kind of gets rid of the concept of, oh, this is a college educated person, this is a non-college educated person. Now this person's obviously more qualified because they went to college, as if
Gotcha.
whatever job they have is related to whatever field and thing they studied, versus real life experience of somebody who didn't go to college or dropped out. You know what I mean? Like if everybody could just go to college, just like we go to public school, and that's free, but it's not free. You pay for it with taxes, but
Yeah.
like it's free. Everybody has free access to it.
I can
And
sit
then
there. I
so
sit there from my experience working. Some of the smartest people I've ever met has had zero college education. Matter of fact, I know millionaires who don't that never had a college education. They just stopped at high school.
because it's nice that you can just go right out of college and make, or go right out of high school and make money and not have
Yeah,
to be 10 years in debt. You know what I mean?
yeah,
You can actually do something with that.
exactly. And so this notion that Republicans want to say, oh, we don't want to forgive student loan debt because forgetting student loan debt, I never got a free working hand. And you're
Well,
like,
that's some awful shit.
yeah, but it's like, bro, you went to school in 1955. School was like a
Yeah.
$1,000. Have you like not looked at the latest? It's like the latest tuition
Yeah, the administrative costs alone have like
just to go to school.
skyrocketed, which has made education better because like they're able to hire more professors, so you don't have to have like one teacher with 100 students in a room. You know what I mean? It does
Yeah.
make education better, but that also makes it more costly. And like
Yes.
you can't expect equality of opportunity if you're basing everything based on you being able to afford going to college. You know what I mean? I've not been able to go back to school because I don't have any money saved up, and I have to
And
get in
that's
my in-state tuition, and that's like the only thing setting me back.
well, that's sad because like for me, the only reason why I was able to finish school is because of the Marine Corps. Like I had to go, had to do the Marines for 6 years. They paid for my school. I got out. I got my school paid for. But outside of that, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to pay for school. I had some scholarships here and there, but it wasn't going to pay my whole tuition. They were
Yeah,
paying for
having expensive college is one of the best recruiting strategies for the military. You know what I
right.
mean?
It's like they'll get anyone. It's like
Like
we'll
we'll
pay
pay
for
you $3,000 a year, but we'll pay for your college. Okay, I wouldn't do it otherwise. Obviously,
yeah,
that's why
like
they're worried about us changing society. Is like what's going to do to the military enlistment? You don't pay them anyways. You have 10 times the largest military. We have so much fucking money, and they won't pay like the soldiers who are the military. They're
uh,
spending. They're like, "Hi, you're making $30,000 a year. Now go fire this $90,000 rocket,
yeah,
just for fun." Like that's the level of
well,
the military.
we're very very dependent on military. We have a big military industrial complex in
Yeah,
America, and I think it just ties back to even the gun violence that we have in America. We tend to we tend to idolize. Um, I think we tend to idolize firepower for strength.
yeah,
Yeah,
nationalism, like showing through strength through strength. You know what I
that's
mean?
like showing
Instead of
strength
like,
through weapons, and it's like, yeah, if that was the case, and I love America, we would have won Vietnam. if you
yeah, I
know,
mean,
if that was the case, we'd have won a lot of wars that we haven't won. If military strength came down to simply just weapons, but the reality of the world is our strength in the military comes from our inclusion and diversity and our understanding that we're here from one common goal, which is to protect Americas and make sure Americans sleep at night.
I think our
And that's
biggest strength is our diplomacy and ties, the economic ties and the political ties we have with every country on earth. You know what I mean? Like
that
that
does
makes a
that
major difference. Way
yeah,
bigger
that's
than just like showing how big your is, just with
yeah.
like how many rockets you have. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I'm not saying it's not necessary because there's some countries you need to show force,
Yeah,
but at the levels that we're doing at this point, it's
it's
like
wasteful.
it's wasteful because at the end of the day,
We're
no one.
worried about China, and they spend like $300 billion max, like
Well,
less than half.
because the China's, I hate to say it, they're beating us on that that ideology and thinking is there's never going to be a war in the context of how we're preparing for war.
Yeah.
The
And
war,
even if there is, they can just pay for it then, in my
yeah, right.
personal opinion.
Just pay
Like,
for it. Yeah, like they understand the new war is cyber. This is why
yeah,
they're trying to ban TikToks. This is why they're stealing IPs. This is why they're stealing our technology. It's because they know that's a new war, and Russia knows that too. We're the last ones to the party. It's like because we're still spending all this anti-tank systems, but the reality is we don't even understand that we have to start educating our children so that they can be able to be in cyber defense. It's like we have to just start there. Like there are so many students who doesn't even know how to program a computer right now. At
I
a,
don't.
yeah, like
I don't
yeah,
know how to do shit
you don't know. But you have a kid in China who's sitting there at the age of 5 with a computer and is like, "Hey,
because they're
you can
investing
program."
in their workers.
Yeah. So it's like we have to understand the war has changed. The atmosphere, the battlefield is different. The battlefield now is in the classroom. because the fastest the person that's most educated has an upper advantage in this new economy that we're dealing with. We're just talking about that being creative is the way of the future. Yeah, that is essentially what is the future. It's your creativity, your understanding, your knowledge, your mind is going to be the new driving force of success. It's not going to be what you can actually do; it's what you can actually think. And we don't have the resources available now. Like, I
We
mean,
have resources for sure. I mean, not available in the sense that they're being spent on other programs wastefully, but
yeah,
we have the resources. We have like one of the biggest economies in the world. We could spend this on so many different programs and not miss a beat. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
half of this would grow the economy so that we'd have more money to spend to begin with. You know, it's just
But,
ridiculous.
but it's never sexy to talk about education. You know, it's weird in America. It's like
Yeah.
it's not sexy enough to be like, hey, how come my teachers are not getting paid? Because technically, these are going to be pushing out the next generation.
But
It's
generally,
not,
the people that advocate against education are the uneducated, and they're like the Republicans who think that the educators are just teaching like liberal queer theory or something like that, and they don't understand that like no, maybe if you went to college and like understand how the world works, you know, outside of your small town, uh, you would probably understand that we live in a diverse world, you know,
yeah,
of multiple perspectives and multiple cultural experiences, and like that's when I stopped. I mean, I wasn't indoctrinated, I was educated. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Being indoctrination requires you prevent other people from attaining information. You know what I mean?
yeah,
I was indoctrinated as a child into fundamentalist Christianity, and like I was only indoctrinated by being told like everyone else is a liar and everyone else like they're gonna burn in hell and everyone else is like you know what I mean,
yeah,
making everything else out to be evil instead of the liberal way of education, which is here's this idea, here's this idea, here's this idea. Now you know all of them.
yeah.
There you go. Now you know about it. You can pick whatever you want instead of
People
saying
who
like
are, yeah,
they're the demons and the Democrats and they're molesting children. How easy is it for you to want to choose the Republicans if you think the Democrats are a rink of child molesters? You know what I mean? And they're advocating for all this insane shit that they
yeah.
lie about, which literally no Democrats advocate for any of the shit Republicans make up, but everything the Democrats pretty much everything they like accuse Republicans are at least a good majority of them are guilty of. Racist, sure. Not every Republican's racist. So most of
No,
them are just ignorant. Most of them don't understand like the
no,
systemic racism and where it shows up because they're white and they don't have that experience.
yeah. I don't think Republicans are racist at all. Well,
I think a
there
lot of
are
them are. I grew
actually.
up, I
I
grew up
think
in
there's a
very
minority of them.
a lot of
I would
racists.
disagree. I think there's a minority of racism in Republican Party.
I think it's a spectrum of being racist. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think.
Every Republican's at least willing to look past systemic racism that is apparent. You know what I
I
mean?
think.
Everyone's at least somewhat, you
I
know,
think both parties has racism.
sure,
Honestly,
of
I
course,
think.
every part of
Yeah,
America.
yeah. I think like that's why I can't say they have some overwhelming majority of racism in the Republican Party. I can say that there's racism in the Democratic Party just as much as racism in
I
the
don't.
Republican
I
Party.
wouldn't say just as much. That is not true.
This is why I say it's just as much
I live around
because
Democrats and Republicans. Republicans are so
well
much more racist, and they're unashamed of it.
well yes you're right there are so the Republican Party racism is very in your face apparent. They're not the Democratic racism doesn't come through as apparent because it's not popular in the Democratic Party to be racist. So it's very subtle, and you
Yeah,
have to kind of
I think there's
understand.
different kinds of racism for sure. That's what I'm saying. It's the
Yeah,
spectrum. Maybe
yeah,
Democrats are racist by thinking they're not racist, so they don't really like govern themselves. You know what I mean? As much they think like, oh, I'm a liberal, I can say this. You know what I
yeah.
mean? They feel more comfortable in that sense. When Republicans just don't think racism exists and don't and literally think to be racist you have to put on a hood. Like they think that that's where the line is drawn. Up until that
Well,
point, you're just being like oh no, it's just a stereotype. I don't really mean it. Oh, well, like you're being racist.
No, so yes, in terms of the Republicans and being as parent and loud about racism, yes, 100% agree with you. Um, I find majority of Republicans are not that. I find majority of Republicans are usually Christian, white, traditional family are Republicans usually.
I
I
hate to
find
say it, but it really does depend on which state you are in. You know what I mean?
very much so.
A Massachusetts Republican is probably mostly a cool dude. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
if you were in Idaho, you are a literal white supremacist. Like
Well,
Idaho is insane. Like they literally have like legal firing squads.
yeah, I
I've
don't
been
know about
looking.
Idaho. I've
I
never
have.
been
I've been looking it up today, and
really.
I've also watched a documentary about it. But
Well, you
like,
don't have to worry about me being Idaho. It's like,
no, literally, it's like you go to the Panhandle, and there's like literal towns of all white people with Nazi flags everywhere. Like that exists in America.
no, I 100% agree. Racism
Yeah,
exists in America. I was just saying,
I think people genuinely undervalue, or not undervalue, underestimate how many people are like white supremacists and everything except for the name.
I
Like that did
well,
not change since the 60s and 70s. I mean, it's gotten better. It's gotten a
no,
lot
no, no,
better.
no, no.
But
You're right. It hasn't.
in certain areas, like has not changed at all. They
No,
are
I
the
would.
same demographics, and they don't even know. They've never seen an Asian person. You know what I
No,
mean?
I agree. There's parts of America that are like that. I'm not disagreeing. Trust me, I've been in those kind of parts.
Yeah.
If you look at Florida, there's a lot of
Florida's
parts of
not great.
Florida. It's like that. But what I was saying is that I think reality is I wouldn't say majority of Republicans are racist though. That's why I would say
It
I
depends
would.
on what you mean by racist. I would
Well,
say like actively trying to undermine minority populations, like with that as their intention, sure. But them being like, oh well, the black people in Chicago, you know what I mean? They should just stop shooting each other because like they're just more
mhm.
violent. If you look at the numbers, the crime numbers, blah, blah, they'll just go on that sort of tangent about like, well, if you look at
So
the
I wouldn't call that.
statistics,
I wouldn't
I've
say
talked
it's
to so many
racist.
conservatives
I
when I
think
used
that's
to be conservative.
no, no. I don't think that that's so much racism, or more so if they're just ignorant to. Um,
I think people choose their data based on what they already believe.
yeah,
You
they're
know what I
preconditioned.
mean?
Yeah,
So I think that they read the data that justifies their already preconceptions about how black people are more violent, and it's the culture. Oh, it's the way it's racism,
it's well.
and it's not the same as wanting
I
to
think it's
hang people.
stereotypical. I don't want to say it's racism because racism. We have to look at racism in the context of our because racism. It's like it's taking a different. It's taking the form of the
It's
old
morphed.
racism.
It's
It's
definitely
more.
morphed.
Yeah, it's
People are more subtle about it. They use dog
yeah,
whistles. They don't. They're not. It's not culturally acceptable to even like even amongst white supremacists, they have to use dog whistles, but they all know deep down what they're talking about and what they really desire.
yeah. But what I think now, what we're really dealing with is stereotypical things, like but I think that's not just coming from white people. I think that's coming from all parties.
Sure.
It's like how I think I had to watch a Jeremy Lin. If you don't know who Jeremy Lin is, and we're about to go over overtime, but it's okay. We'll go over.
Yeah.
If you know Jeremy Lin, he was a
I'm a big
basketball
Jeremy
player
Lin
in New
fan.
York. Yeah, yeah. So he even had to talk about how there's people that were black on his
Yeah.
team making Asian jokes against him,
I
and I
think
like, and I thought it was like, oh wait, that is offensive that we make fun of Asians
yeah,
because they have.
Asian racism is actually probably a bigger problem in
Yeah.
America than
So that
black racism. I think we've gotten a lot more progressive on that issue because there's been so much focus on it and people just do not talk about like how racist people are against Asians. Like and
yeah,
it's so casual. Like
it's
people
so casual. Yeah.
yeah. That's where that's how it's morphed. But it's still racism. It's still not seeing an individual as
Well,
an individual.
they're not getting beat or separated
That doesn't
or
that's not where
that's
you
what I
draw the
said.
line of racism.
But that's what I'm
And
saying.
some of
It's
them are
more.
being
That's what I'm saying. It's being morphed
yeah.
because reality is now racism is falling into the realm of stereotypes, and we have to kind of separate the
I think
two.
it always has included these things. I think people just can't you can't focus on this kind of racism when there's actual people being like discriminated by law. You know, when that's an issue, you can't really be like, ah, it's just a stereotype. But one
No, no, no.
but
Just
it's always been racism. Racism is literally just like you have a stereotype based on someone being different than you based on their race, and not necessarily like, oh, he's probably this based on his religion. No, it's just like purely based on race and feelings of like in-group out-group difference, stuff like that. Like it's not even always like offensive, you know what I mean? It's not even it's just seeing that difference and like putting yourself as a different kind of human subconsciously, like
yeah,
that. Like it's subtle, but it's a big long spectrum. You can be wanting to track down every person and get them out of the country, this and that, but
mm,
you can also just be like, I'm only really comfortable living next to a white person. You know, I don't really know if I trust having a Mexican neighbor or this or that. And you know what I
see,
mean? It could be that it could be subtle sometimes. You know, just preferences that don't really necessarily even affect people can be racist. You know?
your preferences can be settled. Like for me, for example, I have a preference. Like if I live in a city, or if I live in a community, I want to make sure it's a diverse community. I
I
don't like,
actually agree.
yeah, I don't like staying in like all black, all white, all Latino. I like it to be like a mix of white, black, Latinos because I want my children to be around diversity. So that's kind of a preference thing. I don't know if that makes me
Mhm.
racist, but
I
it's a
don't know. That's a
preference.
good question. I don't know how to answer that one. I don't. I
Yeah,
think
but
that's different because if it's wanting to be socially inclusive or racially
yeah,
inclusive, I don't know if that's racist,
I
but it's
don't
at
think it's
least
racist, but
racial.
it's kind of racial because I am thinking about it.
Yeah.
Of like, I'm purposely thinking to myself like, I need to be in a diverse population. So
Yeah.
it could be that, and I shouldn't discriminate against all white neighborhoods or all black neighborhoods, but it's just one of
Yeah.
those things that I think that there's no perfect society, and our objective in America is to form a more perfect union.
Yeah.
So
It
let's
is to
keep that
move. It is
going.
ideally to move past seeing any sort of difference between a human being at all.
Yeah,
We shouldn't even be like tracking racial statistics anymore. Like, oh, this is 47% black. Like, I don't know what the utility in that is.
yeah,
You know, we can move past that kind of stuff. I don't know. It obviously there's obviously a lot of like experience people could have differently in like their up. But once we have equality of opportunity, we don't have to really consider that stuff as much. You know what I
I
mean?
agree.
Like that's where we're lacking is we don't have equality of opportunity, and the inequalities are all against non-white people because white people are the standard, and the white people get preference, but because mostly white people are employed at places that you know at schools and admissions stuff like that. It's just people in power are mostly white, and that's
Yeah,
going to give
well,
them preference for hiring white people. That it's not even like conscious half the time.
that also goes to the fact that white people are majority. There's sixty
Yeah,
percent of the population is white. So I agree with you. I agree with what you're saying that we're until we do something about that and have some diversity and inclusion, we will continue to fight for an equal voice.
yeah,
All right, Seth. Well, it is an hour and 3 minutes. We went
yeah.
over. I really want to dive deep next week about this racial divide we have in America. I think it's a conversation that we come from both different worlds. I come from the deep south, and you come. No, I said deep south. That's a lie, guys. I come from
Well, you
Florida.
kind of are. I mean, that is deeper than the deep south,
It's deeper than the deep south, yeah, but we're
but they're
not.
less. They're
We're
less.
not Alabama people. from Tampa and
Tampa people are
Miami.
less southern than people from the north of them.
Here's a trick of Florida. The farther north you are, the farther south you are.
Yeah,
The farther south you are in Florida, the farther north you are.
I feel like the north is in the middle though, because Miami is. I don't know. I don't know what to call Miami. There's
Miami's New
not really.
York.
It's not really like a northern place. It's
Miami's New
like
York, and Tampa's
okay,
Chicago.
I could see that. I could see that.
If you want to say, but you hate Chicago, so I don't know
I
if that
don't
was
hate
a good.
Chicago.
Well, you don't like Chicago.
I don't like the Bears. I hate the Packers. You know what I mean? I hate Ohio.
Oh,
Yeah, because I'm from Michigan. You got to get your interstate rivalries together, bro.
Yeah. Well,
We fought a war against Ohio, man.
Michigan did?
Yeah,
When?
it was over Toledo and the Upper Peninsula, and we got the Upper Peninsula, and they got well, it wasn't over Upper Peninsula, but we got it because we technically lost the war,
Yeah.
and they got to keep Toledo, and we got the Upper Peninsula.
Damn, they lost
They
that
got a
deal.
dirty city, and we got like copper mines that enriched the entire state. So,
Jesus. Well, next week, guys, we're going to go dive deep into the Michigan Ohio War,
oh yes, we will
which
spend
I
40 minutes. No, I'm kidding.
which I've never even heard of. So that's why we got to dive deep
That's
to find
about as deep as it goes.
out.
Like one person died. It wasn't very long, but they were
Oh.
like aiming guns, like ah!
All right, guys, this is coming to HBO Max. Ohio State versus
I would watch a show about that.
Michigan. All right, guys, well, have a good night. We're gonna let you go. All right,
All right, you guys, everybody have a great night.
see you.
We'll see you next week. I'll have to exit out of my full screen to end the stream. There we go.